Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for our weekly track roundup, where I go over what I felt were the best and worst tracks of the week. This is a special edition of the episode because right off the bat we're getting into some of the hottest, newest tracks from Kendrick Lamar and Gorillaz. First though, gotta mention our Amazon Associates link down there in the description. If you hit up that link and you live in the US, anything you buy on Amazon, we get kickback from it. Does not add to your overall price, helps out the show, helps out the segment. Also want to give a shout out to our sponsors in this video, the good people over at Dollar Shave Club. They have been keeping ya boy clean and clean shaven for the past week with some good ass razors. Down there in the description we have a link. You can get your first month of Dollar Shave Club for literally $1. Quite convenient because they have good razors and you're not going to forget razors at the store or whatever. They get delivered right to your house. You can get other add-ons like shave butter and soaps and all that good stuff. I know a lot of y'all out there watching me have hairy faces and stuff like yours truly, and you know, it's just really nice, good product, and it incentivizes me to shave and not be like a scruffy, semi-homeless looking guy on camera. And I also want to give a shout out to Turntable Slip Mats. They're back, everybody. Our awesome The Needle Drop Turntable Slip Mats. We have a new batch of these out. We do international shipping, and if you want, I'll sign one for you too. Just add a little bit more in terms of cost, and that's it. To anybody that gets a signature, I'm going to print out some review notes and send those along as well. And everybody that buys a slip mat in this batch of slip mats will be put in the running to win a copy of a deluxe edition of this Run the Jewels album, vinyl copy, sealed, RTJ3. It's the gold pressing of this album, so it's gold vinyl. Solid double gold vinyl with stickers, lyric sheet, and a cover poster. Hell yeah, bitch! So yeah, your boy has 2 of these babies. If you get that slip mat, you will be put in the running to win one of these. And again, this slip mat, it's a nice felt slip mat. The print over here is dyed into the slip mat itself, not screen printed, so you know, it's like a good, nice crisp print. And I've sent out a lot of these things. People love them. Believe me. Believe me. And that does it for all the business in this video. Let's get into the music. Kendrick Lamar, The Heart, Part 4. Compton rapper Kendrick Lamar out with a new single. It's hot. It's polarizing. People are talking about it. It's controversial. It's a song in 3 parts, really, kind of with this smooth, awesome neo-soul flavored intro, something that could have been on to Pimp a Butterfly. But the lyrics here are really telling, awesomely set the stage for this song as Kendrick sort of repeats this refrain about don't tell a lie on me or I won't tell the truth on you. So he's coming through with a threat, with someone in mind, someone who's been lying about him, someone who's been talking trash about him. Haven't quite figured out why, but then in the second part of the song where the beat gets a little harder, we get some light guitar kind of twinkling away in the background, Kendrick gets super aggressive and really starts kind of calling this person out, saying directly that my fans can't wait for me to like, you know, really like step all over you and like destroy you on a track. And I'm not sure 100% who he's talking to. A lot of people have been saying Big Sean. And while there is a bar later in the track where he kind of very snarkily mentions Jay-Z, I think it's Drake. I think he's talking about Drake. I mean, I can only imagine that he would be calling out somebody who he hasn't sort of gone head-to-head with or proven that he's better than on a track. Although, you know, he has done a song with Drake before. I thought him and Drake, you know, everything was good with them. I'm not entirely sure. You know, all this rap beef stuff, it's so subliminal at this point, unfortunately. You know, but if it did end up being Drake, that'd be pretty entertaining. Some people are citing that it could be Drake because of the list line on here. Kendrick Lamar saying that he doesn't care about being on a list, he's on some other shit, or he doesn't care about a list, rather. And I thought that meant like, you know, like a best of albums list or a top albums of the year, or like, you know, like a list of like who did the most numbers on Spotify or something like that. That's something I thought he was sort of reflecting on with the awesome line on this track when he says, you know, there's accomplishments and then there's astonishments. And that's totally something that, to me, boils down who Kendrick is as a modern hip-hop artist. You know, there are all these rappers out there who do these numbers and, you know, they fill the seats and they get the Spotify streams, but then there's astonishments. And you can't say that To Pimp a Butterfly was anything less than astonishing. And that astonishing continues to be sort of a bar that Kendrick sets for himself with everything he releases. And that's no exception with this track. I love the many points in the song where it seems like Kendrick is spitting bars, but then overdubbing lines where he's like second guessing himself and you hear a paper crumpling like he's destroying what he just wrote and trying to spit out another line to replace that line. Like just another moment where he kind of, using sound, paints a picture to go along with what he's rapping about or the emotions that he's feeling at a particular moment in a track. There are a lot of great memorable bars on this track, but the sad thing about this song, though, is that it does not sound like an album track, you know? Just kind of sounds like a hype-up track to tease toward either a new album or whatever Kendrick is going to be doing on April 7th, because toward the end of the track, he specifically mentions April 7th as a date where either this person he has in mind has to get their shit together, or his listeners, his fans, have to get their shit together to pay attention to or get ready for whatever he's going to release, whether it be some kind of direct call out to this person or a full-length album. And if it does end up being like a full-length studio, like completely finished front-to-back record, that's going to be fucking amazing. I can't even handle that. Like, it's... Untitled and Mastered just came out. To Pimp a Butterfly just came out. Like, give me a second to breathe, please. If he ended up dropping another incredible record, and I think it's totally within his ability to do so, that it would just so solidify him as one of the most significant rappers to do it, period. Not just of this decade, but like ever in the genre's history. And I'm going to leave it at that. I love the track, excited about the track, and whatever Kendrick's going to be doing on April 7th. You know, I hope it happens. I hope it pans out. And I'm just looking forward to what this ominous warning means. Now, as far as these Gorillaz songs, Damon Albarn saw fit to drop 4 new tracks from this upcoming Gorillaz album. Now, if you guys remember that song Hallelujah Money, I thought it was okay. You know, it was decent. I wasn't so sure if instrumentally Damon had complimented his guest, Benjamin Clementine, all that well, though I did love Benjamin's performance on the song. I was looking forward to hearing more cuts from the record because, you know, I wasn't blown away by that one necessarily. And these 4 tracks over here, I'm glad that he sort of gave us a bigger picture of the album rather than just another song, because this is a long record. It's like 26 songs or so, interludes, full tracks and all. So, you know, even though we are getting a slightly bigger picture, it may not be an adequate picture because maybe the whole album flows together in a really, you know, awesome, epic way or something, you know? But if we're to sort of just take these 4 tracks as they've been delivered to us and sort of analyze them for what they are, at least me, from my perspective, I think for the most part, they're not good. I do not think these tracks are good, to be completely honest with you. And let's take it from what I thought was the weakest of the tracks, and that's We Got the Power, featuring Jenny Beth of the post-punk band Savages. Now, this track to me has one of the worst hooks that Damon has ever strung into a Gorillaz track. The big, overblown chorus vocals singing that corny ass line about having the power to love everyone and da 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 da. And not only that, the song is just like really colorful, it's really fruity, it's really over the top. Jenny Beth was the voice who you wanted to have on this track. Like, her weird, freaky vibrato does not really complement the bright, really kind of almost blissful vibe of this song at all. You know, not that I think that Jenny Beth did a bad job. I think what Damon did was a bad job of incorporating her, finding a point on this album where she could really kind of play to her strengths instead of shoving her into this position where she has to kind of contort or apply her voice to something that doesn't necessarily sound all that great with her vocal tone or her vocal style. You know, maybe it's just because I've heard her over so many Savages tracks that it's kind of weird to recontextualize her here. I'm open to that potentially being the case here, but still, the hook is really cheesy and just not a very good look. Now, the Pop Can song over here, Saturn's Bars, I thought was okay, you know, but it didn't really feel like a Gorillaz track to me at all. It felt more like a Pop Can track, you know, because he really dominates the entire song. The instrumental to me isn't really anything to write home about. And again, while I did like his performance on this track, there wasn't anything specifically about it that to me read as like, oh man, this is a Gorillaz song. This is a Gorillaz track. This is sort of where that ability for Damon to work with anybody and sort of, you know, collaborate with somebody on a track, you know, really kind of comes to life. You know, to me, it's one of the more lackluster collaborations here because there's no chemistry to speak of, because it just feels like Popcaan dominates the track. Now, the track Ascension, which I thought was a little better, featuring Dram, who I was really excited to hear on this track. Dram's presence on the song, in contrast to Popcaan's, is so subtle I would have almost never guessed he was on the track had I not been told. You know, sure, his sort of bright, eccentric vocal harmonies do come in and do play a factor toward the end of the track, but almost everything up to that point, it just kind of feels like I'm listening to a slightly more electronic version of the sad, kind of underwhelming tracks that Damon was laying into his past couple of solo records. So this, another song I was underwhelmed by, unfortunately. The only track I really, out of this four that I liked, that I really enjoyed, was the Vince Staples one, Ascension. Vince sounded great on the track. The instrumental itself had a lot of character to it. I thought it supported Vince really well and had kind of a quirky, eclectic vibe to it that enhanced Vince's personality, because he is kind of a unique rapper. He does have kind of a left field vibe to his flow and to his delivery. He's definitely the kind of rapper who I could see flourishing and really benefiting from a Gorillaz song, because, you know, their instrumentals typically are really unique, and Damon does do a great job of finding sort of those weird rappers that have some mainstream appeal, but also can get a little experimental, get a little weird. That's why Vince Staples, again, I think is perfect for a project like this. And, you know, not to say that Popcaan, Dram, and Jenny Beth aren't. I think they most certainly are. I just think Damon didn't really do that great of a job of incorporating them into these tracks. I think Dram could have had an entire, like, verse, a larger feature on this thing. I think Popcaan would have been served best on this track if he had dominated a hook or something. And Jenny Beth could have done with something a little spacier, a little weirder, a little more, I don't know, eerie or dark. Again, I don't really think the instrumental of the song here fit her vocal style. So, you know, to me, right out of the gate, Gorillaz are kind of really failing at what up until this point they've done so well, and that's work with a plethora of different artists, work to their strengths, and incorporate them into your music in a really effective and amazing way. Hopefully that ends up being the case on some of the other cuts on this record, because there's so many great names on this album if you look at the track list. But so far, between these tracks and the Benjamin Clementine track, the only song that I think went off without any hitches whatsoever is this Vince Staples song. So again, unfortunately, you know, I have to tell you guys how I really feel about this stuff, and I just got to report that I'm not really that into these tracks. You know, I'm not going to count the album out or anything, because there's so many songs on it. You know, you can't really count it out just based off of 5 tracks. That's just a fifth of the album. There are 20 other songs and interludes to listen to. So I don't know. Hopefully these songs just kind of end up being minor moments on the album, and the rest of it's incredible. The rest of it's incredible. That's all I'm crossing my fingers for. Moving on from these tracks, I want to shout out the new Show Me the Body mixtape. Give that a listen. Link is down there below. It's free. Gave their album Body War review not too long ago. These guys fuse punk and hip-hop and metal and noise music. They fuse so many different things together, and they do such a good job. It's so creative. It's so off the wall, and I want to review this mixtape pretty soon. So give it a listen. Get your ears on it. Get familiar with it before I'm talking about it. And moving on from there, I want to talk about the worst tracks of the week, my least favorite tracks of the week. I did list a couple over here. I want to give a shout out to the new David Guetta song over here, Light My Body Up, featuring Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne. As you could expect, it's just a really trashy hip-hop EDM fusion with some corny-ass bars from Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne. Throw it in the recycle bin, please. I'm sure it has millions of views on YouTube as I'm talking right now. The new Blondie song, Long Time, is just another track off of this forthcoming album that, to me, I don't know. It's Blondie's vocals and it's the instrumental production on here. Something just feels off. It feels awkward. It feels kind of flabby. It doesn't feel all that toned like a good dance song should be. It doesn't feel all that groovy or energized like a good dance song should be. It just feels kind of like something's missing. Like something is missing. I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe it'll become a little more obvious to me when I hear the new full-length album, but something just feels missing. But easily the worst track of the week, and surprisingly one of the most ignored tracks of the week. I mean, it did get some attention amongst her fans, but it's just got so little traction in comparison with all the singles she dropped from her last album. And that is the new Iggy Azalea song, Mo Bounce. Now, at first, I was listening to the track and I was like, this isn't too bad. When the track first started, the grimy, loud, banging beat, the Mo Bounce refrain that kind of was getting chopped and looped a little bit throughout the song. Her verse was okay. She sounded fine on the mic. I'm not praising her lyrics or anything like that. But the thing is, this song gets so annoying so fast. It's like, these days when you hear a good visceral banger, you're like, hell yeah, fuck, this is good. It's loud. If I could just kind of ignore who's responsible for the banger, it's listenable. But the more that Iggy started rapping and the more that I heard that Mo Bounce refrain repeated again and again and again, and the less I heard the instrumental like progressing or doing anything significant in terms of change as it went along, the more I was like, okay, wait, no, this is just annoying. And that's what makes it the worst track of the week, in my opinion. So there you go. Iggy Azalea, Mo Bounce. In the tracks that I thought were, meh, but certainly worth shouting out, I want to talk about the new Chuck Berry song, Big Boys, featuring Tom Morello, of all people. I guess Tom Morello is on this track playing a little, a little old school rock and roll shit. Chuck Berry, rest in peace. He died like last week. A lot of people didn't talk about it, or at least I missed it completely. I was just not online that day, I guess, or I was doing something else. I mean, I'm sure you probably could go back and see that I was online, but for whatever reason, it just didn't come to my attention. Typically when big stars like this pass away, you hear about it for a little while, but Chuck Berry, I guess it just didn't end up being the case. Probably a lot of people these days don't really listen to Chuck Berry, and I know he had, some drama and legal stuff in the past with the camera in the bathroom thing that probably sullied his reputation a little bit with a lot of people. So, not going to get into it now. We'll leave it at that. But this new song over here, Big Boys, sounded like Chuck Berry playing to, his old school rock and roll sound. It's not bad. And I'm going to give a shot to his new album. I'm just going to give it a listen, and just see what's going on. Moving on from there, Marissa Nadler has a new track out titled Rosemary from that Our First 100 Days compilation, the Donald Trump First 100 Days comp. And it's a cool little folky, very stripped back, her vocals, acoustic guitar ballad that's very beautiful, very pretty, very easy on the ears. Moving on from there, Big Walnuts Yonder. This is kind of a weird experimental indie rock, psych rock, a little proggy kind of track featuring Niels Klein, Greg Saunier of Deerhoof, Mike Watt of Minutemen. This is like a cool little super group going on here. Just wanted to shout out those names over there. If you're a fan of any of those artists, any of those names, you want to give this thing a listen. The good people over at Stereo Gum I saw did a premiere of that track, so shout out to them. And I want to give a shout out to the new Waves track, Animal. Thought it was okay. Wasn't as in love with it as the two previous tracks Waves had just dropped, but still, it still moves along those same lines that the previous two tracks did in terms of like, it's taking modern rock, it's taking punk rock, and it's kind of giving it a punchier, modern, slightly more electronic edge, but still kind of keeping that rock spirit. I think he's doing a good job of kind of progressing the song forward a little bit, or at least modernizing it in such a way where a younger audience will get into it. It doesn't sound like just some old, tired 90s revivalism or whatever. So I'm definitely liking that he's moving in that direction. He's taking some more risks, and he's doing something a little more contemporary. And those are the tracks that I was kind of on the fence with that I thought were at least mentioning. The songs that really kind of hit me this week, Future Islands Cave. Sure, it sounds a lot like the two previous songs that have been released from this Future Islands album, but it's still great. Those driving bass lines, the amazing passionate lead vocals, the synthy leads that are super catchy, super sweet on the ears. It's so like, emotionally, I guess I want to say the word I'm looking for. It's so... It just kind of gets you whipped up into an emotional frenzy, and it just like, uses that to justify your emotional frenzy. It's like, yeah, like feel passionate, feel fiery, feel fucking amazing. That to me is sort of what makes this and a lot of Future Islands tracks great. Moving on from there, Foxygen has a new song out that they've released along with a new series that's going to be on Amazon's. And, like many of the tracks from their previous record, Hang, it has a lot of kooky, kind of schmaltzy instrumentation on it. It's very fun. It's very tongue-in-cheek, very silly. I want to give a shout out to the new Tim Heidecker song, Mar-a-Lago. Tim Heidecker, TV producer, comedy man extraordinaire. I've never cared for his solo music at all. I just find it so boring. I find it so uninspired a lot of the time. But this new song over here is a bit of a jab at Trump and is absolutely fucking hilarious. And he pretty much writes it from the standpoint of Trump being really stressed out about the presidency and all of this stuff that's going on around him politically, but then he uses Mar-a-Lago as a kind of a vacation destination, a place where he can get away from it all. It kind of sounds like an old school, not an old school, but like a Beach Boys song, like from that Kokomo era or something like that, like when they were coming out with some of their worst stuff. But the way Tim does it over here, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek and funny, and obviously the lyrics are hilarious, so it's actually a really good song. So shout out to Tim on this good-ass track over here, Mar-a-Lago. Black Lips have a new song out called Can't Hold On. Sounds like they're throwing it back a little bit to some of the fuzzier, more lo-fi stuff, like on 200 million thousand, or I think that's, or is it 1,000 million? I can't even fucking remember at this point, but that's a very good underrated Black Lips album. But it kind of sounds like they're taking it back to their fuzzier stuff as opposed to the album that they did with Mark Ronson not too long ago, way cleaner in comparison to a lot of their material. But I do like this track. I do like how abrasive it is, how off the wall it is. They still bring that fusion of punk and garage and psych, and they kind of still have the kind of that sweaty energy to them that's really awesome. And finally, I want to give a shout out to the new Perfume Genius song Slip Away, and it's this epic synthy, like heavy and passionate song that, God, the instrumental is so immense. I just can't get my fucking head around it. There's something about Mike's vocals on this track that it reminds me of something else, like something so familiar. I can't totally put my finger on it, but I love his performance. I love the tune. I feel like he's taking a lot of the instrumental risks he did on his last record and building on those, and just making more fleshed out songs, just getting a little more ambitious, if I didn't say that word already. And I'm going to leave it at that. Those are my favorite tracks of the week. Everything that I just talked about in this segment is linked down there in the description, again, along with the slip mats that are back on sale. Hit that up, the Amazon Associates link, and a link over to the good people over at Dollar Shave Club. Hit them up again with the link down there. Your first month of Dollar Shave Club is just $1. And that's it for this video, guys. Hope you got turned on to some good tunes, some good music this week. Hope you thought my takes on the Kendrick Lamar and Gorillaz tracks were not too angering, but that's going to be it for this Best and Worst Track segment. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video forever.